All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. This is the 2021 Flag Football Preseason Coaches Webinar. I think you all know me, but my name is Melissa Enger. I am the staff lead for flag football and all team sports. So first off, let me say welcome. I'm so excited that, fingers crossed, we can have a real season this year. With everything that's happened the last year and a half, I'm just so excited. And I know all of you guys are really excited to get the season going back and have some games. We also have Mike Zarnowski on here. Mike is the VP of Sports. He's going to kind of be our moderator and go through the updated COVID protocols tonight. And then we will go through deadlines, the events offered, how to qualify for the states, the competition opportunities that we have to date. We updated the team assessment form thanks to the sports management team. Nothing major, just a few wording and some point reevaluation, stuff like that. And then there are some new rules for the 2021 season that SOI came out with that we will go over as well. So just a reminder, we have the coach resource page. The link is right there. I will send out these slides after the webinar within the next 48 hours. With the recording, but anything you'll need resource-wise can be found on the coach resource page. And I'm going to hand it over to Mike, and he will go through his slides.
Great, thank you, Melissa, and thank you all, coaches, for stepping up and coming out with the after the year that shall not be named, it feels like. But we're very happy that there has been from Special Olympics International an updated protocol that we're in. You hopefully have heard about most of the details from your area director. But in case you hadn't, we wanted to go over it quickly here. For those of you who were with us last year, this is not an hour of me talking. We'll be done in maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. So again, the new protocol recognizes improvements and the fact that there is now a vaccine and so on. Now we know that things have been shifting a little bit in recent weeks and such, but it does reflect all that. Right now, as we'll see, we're all in the entire state, and we're doing this. We're setting the category that we're in, or the phase that we're in, if you will, on a statewide level. And so all of Maryland is in the low category, which is sort of equivalent to what phase 3 was in the old protocol, but we'll go through all the details on that. That's not to say that we may not have to shift to a medium or a high risk category if things shift around. What is nice is that in all of those categories, none of those have a complete shutdown or a suspension of in-person programming. There's some adjustments that would come into play if that does happen, but so we don't anticipate that being something that we may have to do, at least in the near future. It's all built around, as I mentioned, factoring in vaccination rates, but more importantly, factoring in the number or the average daily new cases per 100,000 people. And Maryland has been, I think it's still one of the top 5 or top 6 states in terms of good numbers there. We're at, I think, 2.5 per 100,000 per day, which is great. So we'll talk more about the vaccination stuff in a moment, but Melissa, why don't you go ahead and click or show the next slide. And as you can see here, we do have, again, low risk, moderate risk, and significant risk. We are all in that low risk category. As is noticed there, we'll stay in low risk in the green category as long as we have either a rate of 10 or fewer new cases per 100,000 people per day. And again, we're at, I didn't check today, yesterday we were at 2.5. And so we're optimistic with that. Or 80% of the participants at the given activity are fully vaccinated. And we'll talk a little bit more about vaccinations in a little bit. And in that situation, everything we follow, as you can see in that bottom line there, or that bottom box, that local regulations on event size and risk mitigation. We'll go into a little more detail on that on the next 2 slides, but basically we follow whatever is the standard for the state by the state government, or potentially if the facility that you're using, or if your county government has something that's more stringent than is in place for the state. You can see the other risk categories. We're not going to go into detail on those. They're there. You can read them. I think the big message there is that things are a little more stabilized and we're less likely to be shifting around as far as that goes. But even within that, we can continue to have activity when we get to the significant risk category, if we ever get there, and hopefully we won't. We have some size restrictions internally, or when we're inside rather, but otherwise we still follow the state guidelines or the county guidelines there. We may just have some additional requirements in place, such as masking and so on down the line. Melissa, why don't we go to the next slide where we have some additional details. I am not going to read this whole thing to you, but just want to highlight, and again, we're really going to focus in on that low risk, that green category. You have the other ones there. Should we get close to where we need to deal with them, we will certainly have more information to share, but want to make sure everybody has the message here. So again, the event size and venue type is all whatever the local authority allows. So again, double check with your counties. Most counties, for the most part, are following the state at this point, but just double check on that. Everyone, in terms of, no, back up, please. Not yet. Everyone, I'm sorry, I know I'm talking with my hands and I might have confused you there, sorry. But everyone across the board needs to complete the communicable disease waiver. Hopefully you're all familiar with that. That was instituted in March. It was a change from what had been required in the fall. So anybody who completed the other form for the fall, that no longer counts. It was completely changed to this communicable disease waiver, which we anticipate being with us for the time to come. It's good for 3 years. The only difference would be is if someone turns 18 during the season, they need to get a new one when they turn 18 because they're signing for themselves instead of their family or guardian doing that for them, just like with a volunteer application or any of that stuff. For on-site screening, it is not required. We recommend, if you have it available, some signage and just reminding folks for hand washing and distancing and such, but in the low risk category, screening is not required. If someone does have a positive test, you can see there, there's no participation for 10 days and then 7 days without symptoms. And they should get, if an athlete or a partner is the one who has the positive test, they need to get a medical clearance prior to returning. Yeah, we've got that so far, knock on wood, we're in good shape with that. For masking, we follow local regulations. Bottom line with it is if the person is fully vaccinated, they don't need to wear a mask at all. They can if they wish to. We're not saying you can't wear a mask, but you don't need to. If you are, or if the individual has not been fully vaccinated, they should be wearing their mask during any time when they're not competing or participating in physical activity. That said, we are not going to be out enforcing that in any significant way. It's for their own safety. They should be reminded, but we don't want to ostracize anybody who has not gotten the vaccination. Other than here, we want to be sure that they know that they should be wearing a mask during that time. You notice there, just make one note, when we go to the moderate risk category, then everybody needs to be wearing a mask except when they're doing the exercise. Okay, now Melissa, go ahead to the next slide. So in terms of distancing, again, we're in the green. We need to, it's encouraged, but it is not absolutely required. So particularly when you're not in sport activities and in indoor spaces, it's encouraged to do that just from a general safety standpoint. Transportation, this was a challenge to arrive at, but where we are, what the requirement is that we want you to encourage private transportation, families transporting their athletes, or vice versa. However, we do recognize that in some cases, Special Olympics may be providing transportation. In that situation, everyone, if it's Special Olympics provided, everyone in the vehicle needs to be wearing a mask. What is Special Olympics provide is that means if either, excuse me, if your county has rented a bus to transport folks to a competition, or if you have arranged the transportation for the athletes. So it would apply also if a coach is going around and picking people up, or if you arrange on behalf of an athlete some type of a carpool. If folks are riding together because they live near each other and they've done it on their own, that doesn't count as Special Olympics organized or Special Olympics transportation. But if you have arranged it, if someone within your program on behalf of Special Olympics has arranged the transportation, then it would come into play, and masking would need to be required within the car or within the vehicle itself. And then also note, excuse me, however many seats you have in the vehicle, that's how many people you can have there. They don't have to deal with distancing. One other note to see there, if you look across all three columns or categories of risk, none of that changes across the board. So for accommodations, and we're talking overnight stay and such, if everyone is fully vaccinated, you can have up to 4 people in a room. There's still the Special Olympics Maryland housing policy that says, 1 person per bed. But, if the room can accommodate or has a pullout or something, you can have up to 4 people. If 1 person is unvaccinated, they can only house with either someone who is fully vaccinated, or they must be from the same household. And I don't think that says it quite that way, but that's really what it means. We'll need to adjust that before we send this out. But I don't know that your group, this sport does much in terms of overnight. For spectators, it's permitted. However, the local authority is allowing. There's no challenge with that. That does still mean that spectators are not allowed down at your bench or in any of the competition areas. It doesn't mean they can go wherever they want, but they can be there. Unlike as you've seen throughout the last 15, 16 months, sometimes spectators aren't allowed, or as is the case in Tokyo, they're not allowing spectators right now. And then meals, no real restrictions other than in green, other than staggering the times if you can. So Melissa, next slide. Okay. So for vaccines, at this point, again, it is not a requirement for participation. It is not a legitimate reason. If someone is unvaccinated, you are not, and your area is not permitted to say, I'm sorry, because you're unvaccinated, you can't participate. Anybody can participate. They may just need to be wearing their mask when they're not competing. We may be collecting and tracking vaccination information. We'll be making a decision on that at some point in the next several weeks. If we do that, it is only for the purpose of when we need to arrange housing, so that in some cases, such as winter games and summer games, we're dealing with where headquarters is arranging housing. But even if your area is arranging housing, it's good to have that information. If you're going to a hotel, this isn't soccer, but for soccer, some areas go down since it's down on the shore, and it's a good distance for some areas to travel. Some will get a hotel there. In that case, your area does need to know who is vaccinated and who isn't to follow that. The other reason that we would be tracking it would be, as you saw earlier, if 80% or more of the people at the event are fully vaccinated, then we are in the green, no matter what any other measure is. If 80% are higher, then we're good. And again, as I've said a couple times now, it can't be affect your registration or waiting list. Also, as is noted there, the individual status, this is not something we're sharing with other people. We're not putting a big red V on their uniform, like a scarlet letter of sorts. It is private, but we do need to have some of that information so that we can implement some of these requirements should we need to in terms of tracking and questions with that. I think that's the last slide for this. Are there any questions before we go any further? I hand it back to Melissa. And I don't see anybody raising their hand or whatever or anything in the chat. Again, it is a much more functional from a sports training standpoint than it was a year ago. And again, kudos to everybody who was able to do anything for flag football a year ago. But we're looking forward to having some real games this season. So that said, I'll go ahead and mute, and Melissa.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
It's all yours.
Thanks, Mike. So just a reminder that we give on every webinar that no athlete or volunteer can participate in any manner within a Special Olympics program without a valid current medical, the new CDW form, and or the volunteer applications and any other certifications that are needed for a volunteer. If a volunteer has their background check is expired or the protect behaviors is expired, they cannot participate. If an athlete's medical is expired, they cannot participate until they get a new medical. There's no if, ands, or but. Oh, well, he's going tomorrow, so he can practice tonight. No. If it's expired, they cannot be on the field at all. This is just a little chart that kind of tells you what is needed for each role. The only thing that has been added to this since 2019 is the CDW form. It's a quick, easy form that everyone needs to have filled out prior to starting. If you fill it out previously, you only had to fill it out once. If you don't know that if you've done it or not, fill another one out. It can't hurt. Some flag football related deadlines. The training registration deadline is August 30th. This is where you get the list of anyone that's participating, practice, coaches, volunteers, unified partners, anyone that's going to be participating with your program needs to be submitted to your area leadership, your GMS entry person, or your area directors, whoever you are told to send it to. If you have a coordinator, most likely you send it to them and then they send it on. But this has to be due and put in by 8:30, August 30th. I know it's quick, and with all these other things happening, if there's any questions about any of these deadlines, please talk to your area leadership, and it will be up to them to reach out to the state office and talk to us about any issues they may foresee. Missing deadline applications, or missing deadline forms, must be submitted by September 8th. Everyone has to have every medical, every volunteer application, protect behaviors, coach applications, concussion training, everything that was listed on the prior slide must be valid through October 16th. October 16th, 2021 is the Fall Fest Games date. So everyone must have all their proper paperwork through this deadline, or through this October 16th. Everything must be submitted by September 8th. Team assessments are due on September 10th. That's a Friday. You must complete one per team, and then they must be sent to me. Once you've submitted them, your team is set. That is before the first competition. So please make sure you submit one per team and fill it out completely. It seems like a lot of information, I know, and it's a lot of work, but it really does help with divisioning and making fair divisions and competition for each of the athletes. The competition registration deadline, that's not something that you guys have to worry about. That's more for your GMS. I will enter in all the teams into GMS and send it to you for confirmation to make sure I didn't make a mistake and put someone on the wrong team, which, you know, it's happened before. I'm human. I know it's hard to believe that I make a mistake, but it does sometimes. But I will enter everyone into their teams and send you the roster to confirm prior to or around this deadline, hopefully before, so that you can confirm those for me. Work with your area leadership on getting all the proper paperwork done. Please start doing that now in advance of the season for the training. We want to make sure all the paperwork is done and ahead of the time, so we're not trying to hunt you down the week everything is due. Make sure everything is good to go, but your area leadership knows all these dates as well. They've done this for a long time, so just work with them and you should be good to go. Coach requirements. Nothing has changed since 2019 except the CDW form. Coach requirements: to be a head coach, everyone has to have a current Class A volunteer application with the associated background screening, valid and current protective behaviors, concussion training course. You have to have obviously the CDW, as we've talked about. You also have to have coaching Special Olympics athletes. If you coach unified, you can take coaching unified sports instead. If you are a traditional coach, you must take coaching Special Olympics athletes. If you are a unified coach and you take coaching Special Olympics athletes, that's fine as well. Every
Melissa,
coach, yes.
I'm sorry, just because this is a confusion point for folks, that doesn't mean to take CSOA or coaching unified sports each year. You need to have taken it once in your coaching tenure. It's not something that course itself doesn't expire. So if you've taken it, that part of it, you're good. You just need to maintain your certification. So.
Thank you, Mike. You have to, each team must have one certified, fully certified head coach. On top of everything that was just listed, you have to have the sports specific coaches training. That is required for all head coaches. It's not a bad thing to have for assistant coaches either. But all head coaches must have everything that I mentioned, plus a sports specific coaches training for that particular sport. So you have to have one for flag football, which is valid for everything that was listed is valid for 3 years. I know that's a lot of information that I just went through. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and ask. And you have to have a different head coach for each team. So if you have 2 to 3 teams, you must have a different head coach for each team. And once you submit the team assessments with that team on it, that coach on it, that coach is that team. We're not going to be making switches halfway through the season. Oh, this guy is going to coach this team and this guy's going to coach this team. We're just going to switch. No. Make sure all of that is set ahead of time, please.
And hey, if you're not sure whether you have your sports certification, there is on the coach resource page, which Melissa mentioned, there's a coach education tab or section, and there's a listing there. Now that we update it at least once a month, but we'll probably be updating on a weekly basis now that the some real activity is starting up. So that's always there, always available should you need to check that.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. And I mean, ask me, ask your area leadership. They can check in GMS as well. This coach education and development progression, this is kind of the same thing that was a few slides back, but it's a lot prettier looking. It's courtesy of Janet Larimore of Howard County. She created this for us, which is amazing. But it just lists everything that you have to have for each role. Obviously, head coaches, everything that we just mentioned. Assistant coaches is everything as a head coach except the sport specific. But again, it's not a bad idea to have your assistant coaches to have a sport specific just in case. So the coach code of conduct, I'm not going to go through all these. You guys can read them. Please read them when I send them out. Nothing has changed, but just kind of a, reinforcement review since we haven't really done anything in the last 18 months or so. But, respect for others, your team, the other teams, the officials, everyone, respect, biggest thing. Ensure a positive experience for all that are involved. Act professionally and take responsibility for your actions. Don't yell at the officials. Don't yell at the other players. Don't yell at the other team. Just don't yell at people. I mean, you can yell to your athletes and teams because, we're outside on big fields. You can yell to them, but just keep it professional, keep it respectful to everyone. And obviously a big thing, health and safety of the athletes and your fight partners. Make sure everything is safe. Everyone's staying safe during competitions and trainings. Again, read through these. Just wanted to do a quick review of them, but typically we don't have too many issues with the code of conduct, but it is there as a reminder for any issues that come up. Qualify for the state tournament. Obviously, everyone has to meet all the training and registration requirements and deadlines. All coaches must have the required certifications by the deadlines. And you must complete a minimum of 2 sanctioned qualifiers. That is one that is the required qualifier scheduled for October 10th. We'll go through the list of qualifiers, competitions that we have on one of the next slides. But everyone has to be at the required qualifier, and you have to attend at least one other event. We have about 4 or 5 other events listed as of right now. You can go to as many as you'd like. We encourage you to go to as many as you can. The more teams we have there, the more competition we have, the more competition your athletes get. So you can go to as many as you'd like, but every athlete and partner must be at the required qualifier. No ifs, ands, or buts. They must be there to be eligible for the state competition. Again, this is just what qualifies a competition. I'm not going to go through these same things as we had in the past. If you have any questions about these, please let me know, and I can talk you through them. So these are all the competition dates we have so far. Frederick is going to be hosting our first qualifier on Saturday, September 11th. I will get the location once I hear from, get the confirmation from Megan on that one. Every other one is on a Sunday in Howard County. Howard is amazing, and they host all the league day play games for us. Those league days will be considered a qualifier. If you attend one, that is considered a qualifier. You'll play in the 2 games, maybe 3 if we need you to play in the 3rd game, and then you go. No awards, obviously, for any of these events. This year we're at Cedar Lane Park on a turf field, so we will be back on turf. Huge shout out to Howard County for getting that for us. We weren't able to get Troy Park like we've had the last couple of years. That's okay. They were able to find us another turf field, which is amazing. When the qualifiers are coming up, I will send out the address to the park because I know there's 2 entrances to Cedar Lane. So I'll make sure we get the correct entrance, and I can work with Cindy and Howard County to maybe get a map together and a little easier directions on how to get to that exact field. Because for those of you that know, Cedar Lane has a lot of fields, turf and grass. So again, on 10, I was mistaken, we're trying to get the required on 10-3, not 10-10. I apologize for
Right.
that.
I was going to say that. I was going to mention that the
I
slide
apologize. It was on 10-10, but then we had a conflict and we had to move it to 10-3. So Howard is seeing if we can get the field for a couple more hours if needed on 10-3, but if not, we will get everyone in on 10-3 no matter what. But the required qualifier that every single athlete and partner must attend is on Sunday, October 3rd at Cedar Lane Park. That's a required qualifier. Everyone must be there. And then your team must attend at least one of the other 4 competition dates. If you'd like to host something, please let me know and I can get it out to the teams. I am more than happy to send something out, but as of right now, these are the only competitions that we have listed for the flag football season. All right, team assessment forms. Again, we'll go through the team assessment form next page. Thank you to the sports management team. Huge help on making sure we stay up to date on these. Megan Schaefer took the first kind of crack at it to update it, and then the management team gave their input. We were able to really, I think, improve the team assessment forms to make it less subjective. So this way you really got to fill these out a lot. And I know it's a lot of information to fill out for each of your athletes and partners, but it is really, truly important. So please, please, please fill them all out and have them to me by September 10th. I will send out reminders, but you must have it to me by September 10th, preferably earlier if possible. Because as I mentioned before, I will enter all the teams based off of the team assessments and send them back to you for your confirmation. When I send them back for confirmation, that does not mean it is an opportunity to change from what the team assessment says. It is just confirming that I have everyone on the correct team as stated from the team assessment. So this is the summary page of the team assessment form. You can have up to 12 athletes on a team, 12 athletes and or partners on your team. So you will see on the next page where you will get the numbers to put in the passing, receiving, routes, defense, defense, flag pulling, blocking, game awareness, movement, jumping, and teamwork. I know there's a lot of categories. I understand that. But it is all extremely, extremely important. So I know this is a little bit small for some of you, probably, especially if you're looking on the phone. But this is where you will get all of the information for the individuals to put on the team summary page. So all I need from the team summary page is the score that you put into that little box. You move that over to the team summary page for each of your athletes. So for passing, you pick a number between 1 through 6, whatever best describes your athlete. You put that number in there, and then you transfer it over to this page, the team summary page. If you look in the Special Olympics rulebook, it says that the max number of athletes and partners is 10. Special Olympics Maryland does allow 12 as a max on the roster, but at the same time, if your team gets selected to go to a national games, we have to follow the Special Olympics international rules and SONA rules, so it is a max of 10, but during our seasons, we do allow 12. So if you read that in the rule book, there is a little confusion there, that's why. But again, you go through this, you divide everything by all the different categories, that's how you get the final rating. This page has all of the things already, I'm drawing up like the equations, sorry. Have all the equations already added in. Please do not handwrite these and send them to me. You can type it right into the Excel sheet and send it to me as the Excel sheet is the best way to do it. Handwriting them in is a lot harder for me because then I had to transfer it into one of the Excel sheets. And there's a lot of room for error on there. So please fill out the Excel sheet and then send me the Excel sheet. Do not send it in PDF. Don't send it with handwritten. Please put it all into an Excel sheet. It makes it so much easier for everyone because it adds everything for you. So you don't even have to worry about doing any of the math. Any questions on the team assessment? All right. All right, team roster, as I mentioned before, the max roster size is 12, and that's unified and traditional. If you notice in the rule book, obviously I mentioned it says the roster is the size of 10. However, Special Olympics Maryland has made allowances for the max of 12. Unified teams are comprised of unified partners and athletes that will be competing in the game. Minimum roster size for any team is 8 athletes and partners. That does not include coaches. Minimum roster size are the players. You only have 5 players on the field at a time. Traditional, obviously, it's all athletes. For unified, you have 2 partners and 3 athletes on the field at all times. There's no 3 doing 4 and 1, 4 athletes and 1 partner. No, has to be 3 and 2 at all times.
Damn, that's
Okay. So there was a new rule book that was updated this past spring for flag football, which is really awesome because previously it's kind of, I think we got some new rules in 2018, but before that, the rules hadn't been touched since the beginning of flag football. So it is really cool that they're actually updating these for us. They worked really hard on these rules. So some of the new rules for the 2021 season: the timing of the games, they'll consist of 2 20-minute halves, running clock until the last minute of each half. Some of the qualifiers, we might end up doing 16 minutes depending on how many teams we have and the amount of time we have. But Fall Fest, there will be 2 20-minute halves with running clock. Overtime, the team that started with the first overtime possession will possess the ball second in the overtime. Okay, so pretty much if team A starts with the ball, team B will start with the ball in overtime. That's pretty much how that works. A big one is from getting extra points. Instead of, if you're going for 1 point, typically, or previously it was at the 5-yard line, they just moved it to the 6. So it's now for 1 point, you are at the 6-yard line, 2 points, you're at the 12-yard line. So they just kind of made it a little bit more consistent with 6 and 12. Running the ball. So this sounds a little weird. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Quarterback, the first player gaining possession after the snap, cannot advance the ball across the line of scrimmage at any point during a down, even if a legal handoff has occurred. Okay, does that make sense? So the quarterback cannot be, they can hand off, but then they cannot be a runner at that point. They can run down the field and become a eligible receiver, but they cannot, once they hand it off, they can't touch it again behind the line of scrimmage. Does that make sense?
Yes.
We had a couple questions about this one before that we went back to studying about and got confirmation. Ball carriers must make an effort to avoid defenders with an established position. Pretty much you just can't ram through people is pretty much what that means. The no run zone, any ball snapped from on or in these zones must be passed. That's not changed. They might have just changed the wording on some of that. But again, no run zones, you guys know what those are: 5 yards leading up to midfield and 5 yards leading up to the end zone, or the no run zones. Passing and receiving, if a player steps out of bounds, they may not be the first player to touch the ball. So they obviously cannot be pushed out of bounds. But if someone happens to run out of bounds, they cannot be the first person to catch that ball again. So pretty much making everyone stay in bounds. But I don't think this is going to be too much of an issue, but it's mostly for running out of the end zone, the back of the end zone, and then back in to catch the ball. They're not allowed to do that. They can't be the first person to touch the ball after they step out of bounds. All right, screen blocking. After assuming a legal screen blocking position, a player may move to maintain it unless they move into an opponent and create contact. So a good way to think about this, how we've always talked about it, is like a basketball screen. You can move to maintain your position, but I cannot move in and hit someone to create that contact. So I can move positions, I just can't do it and step right in front of someone as they're running in front of me. That is not legal. Penalties, the yardage may be declined, obviously, when accepting a penalty, which has always been the case. They did change. Everything is 5 yards now. Previously, it was 10 yards. Everything is 5 yards except unsporting conduct penalties, which are 10. You can see which ones are replaying the first down and which one is a loss of a down. Pre-snap, everything pre-snap is just 5 yards and replaying that down. Anything post-snap is 5 yards and loss of a down. Okay. Any questions on those? I know that's a little different, but like I said, mostly that's just 5 yards instead of 10.
Melissa, for the handoffs, has there been any movement or thoughts or progression on utilizing a pitch instead of just a direct handoff?
Megan, are you on?
Has there been any movement or change towards utilizing a pitch instead of a direct handoff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Megan, I'm gonna let Megan answer that because she's more of the football person than I am, so she can explain a little bit better to you.
Yeah, you still can't make any pitches behind the line of scrimmage. So, like, if you do like a shovel pass, as long as it's received beyond the line of scrimmage, that is a legal pass, but there's no backfield passing.
So we can submit that rule to SONA, Jay, if we want, but that's not a rule that we will just create for Maryland, if that makes sense.
Right.
We can talk to SONA about it though, if we want,
Yeah.
and I can see the reason
Thank you.
why
I think that would be an excellent idea. It would add more validity to the game.
Don, did you have something to say? You unmuted.
Yeah, typically they follow the air it out rules. Problem with only 5 people, if you have a whole bunch of backward passes, it becomes a little tricky with only 5 members. So that's I mean, that's kind of why they're not in there. Because you could do significantly more things with that. But the air it out rules do not allow that. So.
Yeah, I was just thinking about taking the quarterback takes the shotgun snap, and instead of directly handing it off, the running back is positioned, I don't know, 5 yards to his right or left, and he just pitches it to the running back, who then takes off down the sidelines.
Good try.
Yeah, just make them step 1 foot in front of the line of scrimmage and they're good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Don and Megan, as well. For those of you that don't know, Don Bewick and Megan Schaefer are both on the sports management team. They've both, as far as I understand, been coaching flag football since we started flag football. So they're my go-to on some of the rule clarifications. So this one I'm really excited about. Running the ball carrier can now spin to avoid defenders. Previously, that was considered flag guarding, but they can now spin to get around the defender, which I think is going to be really cool for a lot of our athletes. They can't just if they spin to make contact, obviously that's a penalty, but to spin to avoid the defender, they are allowed to do, which I think is going to add a different spin. Mark is excited. I think St. Mary's and Frederick, I think a lot of them are going to be doing this for our high level unified teams. But I'm really excited about that this is allowed now. And screen blocking, there are no limit to the number of steps for the blocker. The blocker must defeat the defender to the spot. They can't run into the defender, obviously. That is a penalty, but previously it was stated that the blocker can only take 2 steps. The blocker can now take as many steps as they want as long as they beat the defender to the spot. So are there any questions about the, go ahead, Don.
They just can't move with the, once they're set, they can't move with the runner. It's like a basketball pick. You can't, it's same thing. You can, as long as you're set, you just can't move with it.
Correct. Yeah, thank you. So as Don said, as long as they aren't moving and running with the runner with the ball, they can take as many steps as they want. Again, And then we go back to the basketball screen. It's just the easiest way to explain what we're talking about for the blocking. Are there any other questions about any of these new rules? There is still no jumping though. I know they added spinning. You still can't jump over. If you have the ball, you can't jump over a defender, just so that is clear. Because I know a lot of our athletes want to do that. It is not still allowed. All right. And Megan will go on Saturday for the coaches training. Megan will go a little bit more in depth into any of these rules that you have questions about. And that leads me on to our coaches training. It is not Sunday the 31st. That is my soccer training. Sorry. Sunday, July 25th. So this Sunday, and I'll correct that. This Sunday, July 25th, starting at 9 a.m. at the Homewood School in Ellicott City. So again, thank you to Howard County for hosting this training for us. We thought Howard County would be more centralized location for everyone to get to. But Megan Schaefer, who is the Frederick Unified high-level coach and a sports management team member, will take a deep dive into the rules for the 2021 season, as well as put you through 15 plus drills that can help your athletes of all ability levels. She's already talked to me about a lot of these things. She's going to have her teams there, some of her athletes and partners from her teams there to show you the different drills and how to go through these drills. Have any questions, please bring your questions to the training and she'll be able to answer them, whatever you need. So if you attend this training, this will count towards your sport-specific training. You will have to be there the entire time. It's not show up late, be there for an hour, then leave and you get credit. No, you have to be there the entire training to receive the sports certification for flag football for the season. And as mentioned previously, it is good for 3 years. It's going to be a great course. She has her athletes that she knows making binders and packets for you. So you'll be able to take some stuff home, have some stuff to take notes. I'll have copies of the rule books there printed out for you as well. But please come. It's going to be a great training. If you want to register, please sign up here. I'll send out a reminder email on Friday with all the information for the training. Again, the training is this Sunday, July 25th for a flag football coaches training.
And Melissa, just to clarify, just because there's always confusion with this, this is the sports specific training. If you have not completed coaching Special Olympics athletes and you are coaching a traditional team, you need to complete coaching Special Olympics athletes to get your certificate, to actually be certified. If you haven't completed coaching unified sports and you're coaching a unified team, you would need to complete that to get that certification. It looks like most of the folks that are on here that are signed up, this would renew their certification in most cases. But just want to be clear on that.
Great, thanks, Mike. Yeah, that is something that confuses a lot of people, and believe me, it's confused us for a few times as well as sports directors. And we told you guys the wrong things, and we do apologize for that. But yeah, so that's Mike, as well as coaching Special Olympics. If you're a unified coach, you can be coaching unified sports, the same thing. If you're a unified coach only. All right, so if you have any questions, these are the people to reach out to. You can see cycling and bowling. It is Steve Bennett, who is the Senior Director of Sports and Competition, I believe his title is.
Competition, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. We never know his title. I feel like it changes every week. But he's going to be your contact for cycling and bowling until a new sports director is appointed. Zach Cintron, who is in that position, has moved over to the Senior Director of Interscholastic Unified Sports, which is our high school program. So we're extremely excited for Zach, but now we have to fill his position. So any questions on cycling and bowling, you can reach out to Steve. Golf, powerlifting, and long distance running is Ryan Kelchner. And I am overseeing flag football, tennis, and soccer for the fall season. But my email is below if you guys don't have it. But feel free to reach out with any questions, we are here to help. So here, I'm not going to go through all this. It is a lot. And it's all a lot of the same things, but please go through this yourselves and review. It's all the coach requirements and certifications, a little bit more in depth about that. The coach education and development model, which you saw, but is on there. Coach certification stuff, the code of conduct again. All the forms and registrations are in there as well. So please take a look into this. But again, I'm not going to go through it because it's a lot of stuff that is in there year after year. But if you need to see what anything looks like, they're all there. So at this point, we'll open it up to any questions. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute or you can raise your hand. I have nothing in the chat that I can see, except Don Bewick said that they will be hosting a soccer competition for us, required 5-on-5 competition, and they will also look to offer flag football. So once we have that date, I'll get that out to you as well. St. Mary's usually has a unified and a traditional team. And those of you that either don't remember or that might be new, because we have a few unified teams in flag football, we do open divisions, which means if you're a traditional team, you might be playing against a unified team, but you will be at the same skill level. So it's not going to be like, I'm going to put you against a very tough unified team. We do our best to try to make everyone good competition, make sure it's a good experience for everyone. But with flag football, we do have open divisions, which means we have traditional and unified teams in the same division. Whereas other sports, we might not do that. Any questions? No? Nothing? All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys are as excited as I am for the upcoming season. It's going to be a really great season. I already know it. I'm beyond excited. I know we have the Lower Shores getting a team back. They haven't had a team for a few years, so we're excited about that. Carroll County is bringing a team back this year. They haven't had a team in probably about 4 or 5 years, which is really awesome that they're getting a team back this season. So any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm always here to talk and answer your questions. But other than that, I look forward to seeing those coaches that are signed up for Sunday, and have a great night.
Yeah, and thank you, everyone. Just as an aside, if you hadn't heard, Maryland is one of the few states that had anything close to a summer games. We're looking forward to doing a similar thing with our sports in this fall. It's all because of the coaches like you who have really made it happen, and the families and the athletes. But huge thank you on behalf of all the athletes and behalf of the organization. This is thrilling to see everybody with us tonight. So have a great rest of your evening.